What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Kinda Funny Screencast, your home for all of the movie, TV, and streaming service reviews you could possibly want here at Kinda Funny. I'm your host for today, Barrett Courtney, and I want to let you know that you can catch screencasts at least once a week over on youtube.com/kindafunny, roosterteeth.com, and on podcast services around the globe. We're about to wrap up our weekly Miss Marvel reviews tomorrow, Roger. Can you believe it? Miss Marvel already wrapping up. That'll be with Joey, Noel, myself, and Timur Hussein, with the In Review boys, the boys that have been reviewing Miss Marvel so far. They'll be talking about the final episode and their full thoughts on Miss Marvel this week, later this week on In Review for MCU In Review. So they'll review it all, rank it against the rest of the MCU and all that good stuff. So I think we wanted more voices to talk about Miss Marvel this week, instead of just like the boys talking about the final episode and then talking about it again a day later. So there you go for that. We also just wrapped up our weekly videos for The Boys Season 3, but maybe soon we'll talk about Paper Girls later this month. Definitely we'll talk about She-Hulk and the Game of Thrones prequel next month, which is insane that those are already sneaking up on us. But we're not talking about those things today. Ladies, gentlemen, everybody join with us. Today we are talking about the premiere of Season 6, Part 2 of Better Call Saul. And to do that, Roger, Jake, I'll introduce you in a second. It's obvious. The elephant in the room, right, are everybody's favorite TO, Andy Cortez, not here today to review the premiere. Unfortunately, Greg Miller came over earlier this morning, and he came to us and he was just spouting a lot of like weird nonsense. At one point, he was like, "Barrett, I need you to drive to this house, this white brick house with a black door." And, Andy and I, like, we're scared of Greg a little bit because he's an insane man. And, to guarantee Andy's safety, I wanted to make sure he got out of there. So I convinced Greg to let Andy go in my stead. So that's what Andy is up to today. But while he's doing that, we're here to review Better Call Saul. And to do that, I am joined by everyone's favorite lawyer turned con man, Roger Picorni.
I was waiting for the snakes to come in. You know what I mean? I was waiting for the snakes to jump out when he opens the door, but I guess not.
No snakes today. It's all Better Call Saul all the time today here on Screencast. Isn't that right? Everybody's favorite muscle for hire, Jake Baldino.
That's me. I'm all string bean all the time, baby. Thanks for having me again. I love this.
It's really fun to have you again. I know, getting into the housekeeping, right? We're not doing like these weekly reviews, so it's nice to just kind of like catch up with you every once in a while, and just like talk about our lives before we start the show, and do these like little check-ins every once in a while for this absolute amazing show, spectacular show, exceptional universe that is all being tied together in really fun ways. And just as a reminder, because we're not doing weekly reviews for Better Call Saul, the next time we'll be back, Roger, Jake, is August 15th, the week of August 15th, when the entire series comes to an end, not just season 6.
Jesus Christ.
Better Call Saul.
I can't even imagine.
I know. When did this show start? It was 2015, right?
Sounds about right.
It was like 2015, 2016, I think.
May as well have been 15 years ago.
I know. It's truly insane. So we apologize, just because we have busy schedules week to week, so we couldn't do weekly reviews. But we're still very excited to at least be able to take the time every once in a while to talk about this special show with you.
February 8th, 2015.
Wow.
Jesus.
Well, that would have been like a year and a half after Breaking Bad ended, right? Because Breaking Bad was like Breaking Bad ended sometime in the second half of 2013, I believe. So that's truly insane that those were like so close together.
What am I doing? Sorry, anytime I hear something that's long ago, I just go, what am I doing?
What is happening? Why was that 7 years ago? Anyways, just a reminder, for Screencast, you could be one of our Patreon supporters. We're at the silver tier or above. You could watch this show ad-free and live as it's being recorded, just like Cameron Kennedy, Jake Stepp, and James Moore are. And you could be one of our lovely Patreon producers like Molecule and Fargo Brady over on patreon.com/kindafunny. Speaking of ads, we're brought to you by ExpressVPN, Athletic Greens, and MeUndies, but we'll tell you about that later. Let's talk about Better Call Saul Season 6, Part 2, Episode 8, titled Point and Shoot, written by Gordon Smith, directed by the man, Vince Gilligan. Jake, I want to start with you. How are you feeling after the month-long break month and a half long break. I don't know how long it's been anymore at this point. The show's been running for 7 years. How'd you feel of the mid-season premiere?
It felt like a long time, but coming right back, my butthole was clenched from the beginning of the episode to the end. And I was just so amazed that they kept that momentum despite a drop off and like do I remember everything? Nope, we were good. It was perfectly done and it was tense from beginning to end. And every character got like a real crazy moment.
Yeah. Roger, how about you? How you feeling after last night?
They set the tone really early because beforehand I was on AMC Plus. What a god awful dog shit service, but like that's besides the point.
That I can only watch on my computer. There's no app for it on like the LG. Like
no, it's the worst. Yeah, but they had like the live, I guess the AMC feed, and they weren't showing the last episodes of Better Call Saul. They were showing the final episodes of Breaking Bad. And that really got me. That really kind of like, I was like, oh no, we're in the end game. And once this episode starts, it just from beginning to end, it is a ride that even though there were moments of it that I predicted, even throughout it, I was like, this is going to happen. Would they do it in such an interesting way? And they do it in such a Breaking Bad way that keeps you guessing to the point where when certain things happen, I'm like, what if they just like, I just feel like I was like when Gus is in danger in this entire episode, I was like, what if he just fucking died? Like, what if they just like they're just like, this is a different timeline, and I would be
that good.
Yeah, I would be like, I'm fine with that.
I love that they were. I love that they were playing final Breaking Bad episodes before this premiered, just because I was thinking, we're gonna talk about some parallels later on in this show. But this episode and the last episode before the break really felt like a two-parter Ozymandias level event, and it's insane to me, like after the episode finished last night, that we still have 5 episodes left. There's like, it feels like there's not a lot left to do, but at the same time, like there's gonna be a lot to kind of take in with these last 5 episodes if we're already here. Right, we talked about earlier in the season. I think it was the second episode of the season where Nacho, who's been a main character, a mainstay, a staple in the show, is killed off in the second episode of the final season, not anywhere near the finale and stuff like that. And the way that they've been kind of spreading all of these major events out throughout the season is just truly insane. I have 2 pages of notes, which is how you know that this is a good episode. But Roger, where do you want to start? Where do you want to go with this episode?
Well, I think I want to start off with the intro, because there was a lot of ways where we talked about like, where is this gonna go? Like, are they gonna have to hide the body? But it goes into a direction that I completely blindsided me to the point where I fell for all of Lalo's bullshit. Like with the fact that he gave them a note, he's like, you have to go and you have to kill Gus. And you have to go to this door, you have to go to this address. First things first, I'm trying to think during this moment. I'm like, could I follow these instructions? Absolutely not. I could not follow these instructions. I would get lost so easily.
We would not be able to survive into this universe because everybody is way too smart in this universe.
No, absolutely not. But I completely fell for it for this entire plot, because it was just all a distraction at the end of the day. But it took this episode from, okay, I think I know where they're going here, to, oh, I had no idea. This in like Succession for me are shows that I always have theories for. I always have a theory of, oh, the Kendall's going to do this is going to happen. But then the writers are just so much smarter than me, right? they're so much smarter, and it's not even worth it for me even having a theory, because I know they're going to end up doing it in a way different way, even if the base idea is solid. But that was for me the moment where I was like, okay, is this going are we gonna have a universe changing moment where she goes and she kills Gus? But for real, like it was that was a moment for me that kind of shifted where this finale could go, because there was a real part of me where I was like, Kim might kill somebody in this moment, and that might be her switch up for sure.
Jake, how about you? Like, where we start off with the whole setup, right? Like Roger was talking about, of you kind of slowly put together of like, oh, this is the alibi that has been created to cover the death of Howard Hamlin. And the way that it starts out, especially where we left off in the last episode, right? You're thinking to yourself of like, oh, this is like an idea that Lalo probably put together and like made Jimmy and Kim like help him out with that. And then you slowly like near the end of the episode, you start to really put together of like, oh no, this is how things are going down. So after the kind of like the cold open with Howard's shoe kind of like washing up on this beach, and
it was so good. That was so Vince Gilligan too.
It's so Vince Gilligan. It's so and you see the Namaste license plate, and you're like,
yeah.
oh. Okay, this is how they're doing it. And then we open up, Jake, on the candle that flickers in the last episode. How did you feel about this whole, like, where things were going with Lalo trying to, like, set them up for this whole distraction plan?
That whole bit, like, I feel like they really cashed the check that they wrote at the end of the last episode, where you saw, like, Jimmy and Kim at their most, like, freaked out that you've ever seen them, and probably the best acting, like just the most convincing you've ever seen. And then this episode just kind of continued with that, where the whole thing with Jimmy convincing Lalo for her to go was like heartbreaking, but also like terrifying and freaky, but just so upsetting. And as she's there next to him, begging him and freaking out and like melting, it was crazy. And then how they do it again, it's brilliant. What I love that they did is that by the end of the episode, not to jump forward, they sat them back down next to each other, like not on the same couch, but like they sat them down, and it was like a totally different dynamic. And I just thought the whole Lalo, Jimmy, Kim thing was crazy, because I kind of thought, Roger, you were kind of saying like you don't know what's going to happen. You were coming up with theories. I was like, oh, is this where Kim gets disappeared, or is this where Kim, does she get shot on the front porch when she goes there?
When she was walking up, because like when she's driving to Gus's house, and there's the stoplight moment, and she like even like rolls down her window next to the police car. I was like, oh god, this is gonna go so sideways, even if she like gets the police involved, because we're dealing with the men that we're dealing with here in the scenario. And then the fact that she kind of, again, it's one of those like very unique Kim Wexler things where she knows probably what the like moral quote unquote thing to do is, but then she's like, no, I'm part of this life. Like this is what I need to do to protect Jimmy and myself. And that was like I think probably the most surprising moment when she decides to keep driving and to like not report to the authorities or anything. That was just like a goddamn, this is it, like Roger said, it's like very predictable but still surprising in the way that they write out these moments. And
even the amount of questions that you have while it's going down, like I think it was so impressive, considering it's the first scene. You're like, why is Jimmy is Jimmy finally showing that he's like a spineless? Is Jimmy selling her out? Does Jimmy think that she can actually do a better job? Is Jimmy like 3D chessing it, 4D chessing it? Is he 6 steps away? Like I had no idea. It could have been any of those things. And the way it turned out was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and that was one of the things where I was scared too. I was like, like, is he spineless? Like Mike said about Kim a couple episodes ago, does like Jimmy just understand that she's made of harder stuff? Because she knew that Lalo was still alive and kicking when Mike told her a couple episodes ago. And so, I had that moment, but then like the way that she was able to even read him in that moment, where she understood of like, this was his way of getting me out of there and to get me to like get out of here. And like, he's essentially just sacrificing his own life to make sure that I'm safe. And I was just so scared when she's walking up to Gus. 'Cause like with Lalo's plan, right? He knows that he's sending one of them to their death because he knows that Gus's men are there, like protecting his house, and you're slowly putting together the pieces of like what his true like motivation is here. And when she's walking up to the house, I'm just like screaming out loud, like, please, for the love of God, Mike, recognize her. Like, please don't let it be some like random like Gus the hired gun who just like opens the door and shoots her because she's the one standing there. And then when Mike shows up behind her, I was like, oh, thank God he knows.
He Batmans her real good. I thought it was going to be because like they had set up the whole like, Gus every day he gets dressed, he puts on his little bulletproof vest, he goes into Far Cry 6 and does his thing. Like it really was wild, because I was sitting there thinking like, oh, she's going to do it. She's going to go through with it. She's going to go pow, pow, pow. He's going to fall backwards. But then you're going to go, oh, yeah, that's right. He has a bulletproof vest. And then something else would develop. But no, it ended up just being more buck wild insane because she immediately gets scooped up by Mike. And then the Mike stuff in this episode, guys, like Mike was incredible.
Jonathan Banks.
It's like his best. It's his best.
Yes, absolutely. I had that written down in my notes.
To see him drop the whole like tired old bitter guy facade and like really you actually see some agency, some urgency to him. It's almost like he kind of learned from losing Nacho, where like he's like, I can't fuck this up again. I gotta. It was something else to see actual stress in his eyes.
The intense walk from like the Gus's house to like the hideout house, like underneath the ground, and it's like kind of doing like they're all intensely walking, and more guys are joining him and stuff like that. I was like, God damn, this is some classic Breaking Bad universe like intensity.
We're missing the most important thing about this is that they introduce a fake Gus.
I know.
Which got me so bad.
Like, that guy.
It's just a fucking dude.
I know.
It felt like an Adam Sandler bit.
Yeah, it really did. It really
and they like never bring it up again. Like
yeah.
I don't know if we've ever seen that guy be a part of Gus's crew. Like who was that man? I need to know.
I just love that was the moment where he realized that he was the patsy. Like, that guy was just.
Yeah, he's like,
just
what?
He's like, I thought this is our uniforms. Oh fuck. Okay.
Wait, I was here for IT. What the hell?
I love the moment with while that's all happening too, we cut back to Lalo interrogating Saul, where he's got him zip tied up and he's like covering his he's gagging his mouth, and the kind of the moment where he's like where Lalo walks Saul through kind of his like thought process, where he's like, well, you know, someone tried to kill me back home, and you know, Nacho was a part of that plan, and you know, I found it just very interesting that, you know, who introduced me to you? Oh, it was Nacho. And so that was one of the questions that I still had in the first half of the season, where I was like, where's this all going to come together? Because of the line from Breaking Bad where, you know, he's convinced that Walt and Jesse are people sent by Lalo, and he's like spouting like, it was all Nacho, and like this scene right here kind of like tied that up in a nice little bow for me, where even though at the end of the episode he knows that Lalo is dead, he probably still understands that there's still people out there that are like part of his family and stuff like that. So that's always something kind of like haunting him.
Or even like this would be the second time that Lalo comes back from the dead or whatever. So like that.
We have a great moment talking about like the absolute terrifying force of Lalo. There was something else. Oh, the moment where Kim's freaking out. Mike's like, sit down, talk to me, and you know she's walking him through of like what happened, why she was sent there, and while he's walking away, she like kind of goes back into full freak out mode, and she says, you said you were watching us, where were you? And talking about Jonathan Banks and his performance as Mike, the moment where the way he looks back at her is one of the most like rare Mike moments, where he like you see him feel guilty. And it was like, God damn, like he does really feel like he failed, especially with Nacho recently. And just because they were really like trying to kind of like settle down and like kind of like build up a wall against Lalo and be prepared in any possible way. And the fact that like Lalo was able to find like the one little crack in their plan to like really mess with them. Like you really see that in that moment.
And you don't see Mike completely lose as much as we see this episode. Like this was a complete L on his part, and seeing that and seeing how it reinforces his character, and we'll get to that at the ending, but it adds, talking about a prequel, like this adds a lot of substance to what he becomes in Breaking Bad and the way he operates and continues to operate throughout the show.
100%.
It's like Black Ops Mike. He's like super tactical Mike. We got a lot of tactical Mike this episode.
And I love that, you know, like we've seen his relationship with Gus over the course of these last couple of seasons, and like how they weren't immediately like, you know, Mike wasn't immediately like the second in command almost. Like we've seen him for like almost all of Breaking Bad, right? And I love that we get to kind of see this moment where they both failed in their own ways, and this incident was them being like, or we always got to be on the same page with each other.
Yeah.
They even have that moment later on. Like Mike's the one to call out to Gus of like, the next time you feel like you want to be Mr. Investigator, tell me. You can't do that shit on your own. And you know, I the way that Gus kind of reacts to that, it's like, oh, he does have my back, and like that, like I love that, you know, we got to see a little bit of Gus's failings in this as well, and just again continuing this whole how scared Gus is of Lalo. This entire episode of Giancarlo Esposito, I think, really nailed it. Of just like you see him fidgeting when he's like trying to like stay put in the fake house. When they arrive to the laundromat and he's kind of looking around, and his men are like, oh, like what are we looking for? And he just sees like the sweat, and he's scared. He kind of is registering like, this fan is broken. Why is this broken? And just like how that all just like explodes a second later, in a way that he predicted, but wasn't like 100% sure that it was actually going to happen.
Did y'all think like me that that Lalo was gonna be hiding in like the big laundry bag?
That's exactly what I thought. Yeah.
He's gonna
Because he was like, because it was kind of like shaking. I was like, oh, he's gonna like pop out and be like, yeah.
Surprise.
I want to talk more about this confrontation with Lalo and Gus. But before we get to that, let's tell you about our sponsors.
Shout out to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this episode. When you use the bathroom, you always close the door behind you, right? Well, you don't want random passerbyers looking in on you, so why would you let people look in on you when you go online? Your internet service provider knows every single website you visit. ExpressVPN puts a stop to this. It creates a secure encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet so that your online activity can't be seen by anyone. I use ExpressVPN on all my devices, whether it's my phone, my desktop, everything. Anytime I'm using the internet, just because I am trying to stay as safe as possible. The best part is using ExpressVPN is as easy as closing the bathroom door. You just fire up the app, you click one button, and you're protected. It is so easy. It's the biggest button in the world. One click, you're done. So if you're like me and believe your online activity is your business, secure yourself today by visiting expressvpn.com/kindafunny. You can use our link, expressvpn.com/kindafunny, and you can get an extra 3 months free. That's expressvpn.com/kindafunny. This episode is brought to you by MeUndies. Are people still trying to make plans with you this summer? As if you aren't booked and busy already. But thankfully, MeUndies wants to help make this summer the most comfortable one you will never forget. Because when you're living your best life, the last thing you want to worry about is butt sweat. And I know that from experience. But you know what? MeUndies has always been there to help me. I'm always wearing my MeUndies shirts, my lounge pants, my lounge shorts, my undies themselves, the socks. I'm a MeUndies fanboy. Wouldn't have it any other way. I just absolutely love the soft micro-modal fabric. Find your ultimate summer comfort in sizes extra small all the way up to 4XL. MeUndies has a great offer for all of you out there. For any first-time purchasers, you can get 15% off. For a limited time, if you sign up for the free to join MeUndies membership, you get 25% off your first membership item. To get 50% off your order, 25% off your first membership item, and 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/kindafunny. That's MeUndies.com/kindafunny. Shout out to Athletic Greens for sponsoring this episode. I started taking AG1 because I'm not a big pill guy. I don't want to spend a lot of time on extra things, but I wanted to make sure that I was taking care of my health. Now, I've been using it the last couple months and I love it. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy. It has a fun tropical taste that I actually look forward to in the mornings. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/kindafunny. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/kindafunny to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. athleticgreens.com/kindafunny.
Jake, we get to this moment with Lalo and Gus. You know, Lalo recording Gus while Gus is on his knees, hands behind his head. how'd you feel about this whole sequence of, Lalo forcing Gus to kind of give him the full-on nickel tour of the laundromat?
It's so good. I really like Lalo's whole like Joker energy to the whole scene, especially the end, which we'll get to. But really, it was Gus, Giancarlo Esposito, like really showing that fear and like that facade coming open a little bit. The whole like tense him walking through and Lalo kind of beating his ass and like kicking him in the dirt, literally embarrassing him, bringing him to his lowest, which is something that he's not really used to. But it was something that he was able to take. So you're like, oh, okay, there's definitely more to this guy. And then when he unloads on the camera, when he's like, let me tell him what I really think about him. Like, obviously he's distracting him. It's a distraction play, but everything he was saying, like he felt and he was for real about.
Yeah.
And that was real, like Gustavo. That was like real ass dude. That wasn't the whole supervillain facade.
That was the full speech he probably wanted to give when we saw him in Breaking Bad. When the spoilers for the previous show when he kills Don Eladio. Like that was definitely the full kind of message that he was trying to give, which I absolutely loved.
Incredible.
Yeah, and I just one of the little moments too where Lalo's kind of like checking like his pockets while at the same time Mike is putting together of like, oh shit, Gus is like where they pick up Jimmy and Jimmy doesn't know where they are, but like he left like right after Kim did, and Mike's like, oh God, like there's a different plan here, and he's trying to call Gus. Oh, the other quick moment that I want to point out before we continue is I love how Gus puts it together, which is like a very similar parallel to Breaking Bad, where Jesse near the end of the show goes off the grid, and Walt is preparing for literally every single scenario that he can possibly think of. The one scenario he can't think of is Jesse teaming up with Hank. And that was like almost the same exact situation here, where they understood that the lawyers were an angle, but, because of all of these different angles, Gus in and of himself was like, he's probably never going to go after the lawyers. Like that's kind of stupid. Let's protect literally everything else. And Lalo was able to find that one little crack to like really surprise him with.
And Gus just saying when he's talking to Kim and she's explained the situation, he's just like, he talked Lalo out of it. Like you realizing like, oh, this is not the real plan here. Like there's something else going on here. Jimmy's not that good.
Yeah. Like you don't talk Lalo out of something. So the fact that he was convinced means that he didn't care who was sent. And I loved that moment that he put together. Again, everybody way too smart in this universe. But to go back to the laundromat meth lab, let's just get into this whole sequence down in the dirt here. Roger, how'd you feel about this whole message and the shootout that follows?
Yeah, it was interesting because I of course was thinking about the tractor and the gun because I brought that up last episode. I was thinking about that the entire time. Yes, yeah. So I was like, this is gonna happen. I was thinking about all the ways it was going to happen. But the thing I didn't expect was the amount of how it wasn't going to be clear, right? Like he turns off the lights, he does the shots, and there was a moment. I had two thoughts where I was like, one, did he actually kill Lalo, which he ends up doing? But two, is this not the end? Does Lalo run away with that footage? Now, like I thought that's where the show was going to go and lead us to where this maybe was a 4D chess moment for Lalo, where he was just trying to get this all on footage at the very least, so he can show everybody else, and there's going to be a big gang war or something like that. But the fake out on our expectations and then it confirming that Lalo was dead is peak Breaking Bad, peak Better Call Saul for me, because again, like even if you remember that gun in there, it doesn't matter because Breaking Bad is smarter than you. It's smarter to you, and it's going to fake you out.
It also played on good viewer expectations, where it with how they set up how slippery Lalo is, and you actually get the feeling watching that Gus may have even gotten, where he's like, oh, holy shit, I got him. Because the way it goes down, it's so sloppy and it's so messy. You're like, he's fine, or he's going to walk it off. We've seen Lalo take so many crazy hits. And then to actually feel the same exact way as Gus on screen, to be like, oh, shit, we got him. Yeah. Cool. It was amazing.
I have written down here in my notes, just like kind of writing scenes down as they happen. Gus kicks the lights off and runs to the gun he hid and shoots Lalo and keeps clicking the gun even after you hear the body drop. Something about the shot from behind him looking into the dark is terrifying, even with the camera screen on the floor. That's how impressionable Lalo was as a villain. Even when dead, you think he could still jump out of the shadows. That shot where it's like you see the camera on the floor out of focus and it slowly comes into focus. There's just something about it, something about Lalo. And this is, he's definitely top tier Breaking Bad universe villain here of just like, you still think maybe he's coming out of this alive somehow. And I love that, like, just how fucking gross it is too, because he shot him like right in the throat so he can no longer run his fucking mouth almost, so he can no longer speak. And I love Jake, you were alluding to this kind of Joker moment where he's got this blood pouring out of his mouth and he's dying laughing. What do you guys think? Like, what was he laughing about? Like, what did you guys interpret that as?
You can go.
You go ahead.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's just his last laugh, right? Like, I didn't go any deeper than that. I was just like, this is the perfect ending for this character. Like, that's exactly how I wanted it to be. Yeah,
it was. I was looking for, like, because Breaking Bad has some good iconic deaths, and I was like, oh man, is he gonna get half Skellington too? Because like, are we gonna have something like kind of iconic like that? And we did. It was gross, and then that laugh. That choking laugh, but that actor has like the most incredible smile. Like, you just love that smile. Yeah. There's something about it. And for that to be the last thing and it to be exactly the same but gross, and then he dies, is like, ooh.
Yeah, and he started like he has such that like iconic smile and that laugh, and that's how we were introduced to him, right? Where he's in the kitchen, making food, and near the wasn't that the end of season 3 or something like that?
Yeah, I believe so.
And he's like, oh, I'm just I'm taking care of things, like I'm just here to check things out, and like I love that we got introduced to him being this smiley, bubbly, but something underneath the surface isn't entirely right, and he ends with that same just haunting smile.
He's all charm, and it's like he died with that charm. And it's like, if you think about his character now, like, there were not really, did he ever really screw up much? He was just the ever present, like, all knowing, really good at everything, always survives guy. And so for him to finally get surprised kind of makes Gus even cooler and more powerful.
Really, like, his only failing really at the end there was just came down to luck almost, because they're doing a firefight in the dark, right? But he did kind of nick Gus there a little bit at right there, because he got him in the side and he kind of collapses there.
I think his major failing at the ending was his just how passionate and how protective he is of his family, right? And like and the way that Gus like just pushed on that pressure point, just almost got, like, you can see in his face he was smiling, and then he starts to the smile starts to fade, that anger starts to build in him, and then he just became sloppy. And I loved I now that I'm thinking about that death, the thing that I took from that, him looking up smiling, is like, I took you down a peg almost. Like, you were this person that was above everything, and now you're here with a gun. You shot me, like, you killed me. You got your hands dirty, and it's almost like they're on the same level playing field. It's kind of brilliant.
That's a great point.
In any lesser show, this would have been where the episode ends, but we still get the aftermath here, right? We I forget his name, Lyle. We get Lyle walking into Los Pollos Hermanos, this poor assistant manager who like always has to work on the worst days. Gus literally like calling in sick to him, which I found like really funny. And he was like, "Hey,
he's his most loyal minion for sure. Like, out of everybody on his payroll, like, this guy's getting paid like $2.
Shout out to Lyle. Like, I hope I don't know if Lyle actually ever showed up in Breaking Bad. I don't think he was ever at that Los Pollos. I hope we get a moment at any point this season that, like, it does the dumb explanation of like why he isn't at that store, but I hope he's like given his own store to manage. Like, I hope like that's his like almost his like character growth, like, in that way.
Watch out for him, because I mean, the fact that Gus was like, I'm gonna need you to open and close today and tomorrow, and he was like, sure, no problem. Like, nothing, like, just as cold as Gus. I was like, oh man, there's no way in real life anyone would ever react that way ever.
Well, he probably, like, he's like a stone cold, and in his head he's like, fuck, man, I gotta open and close these next 2 days.
I had a
Like
date last night.
This fucking
Oh my god,
sucks, dude. Because that's definitely how I was. Like, if I was told something like that, I'd be like, yeah, okay. In my head, I'm just like fucking screaming. I'm like, I'm gonna be so exhausted.
But Gus delivering that phone call while getting operated on like army surgeon style on a couch, and he's just on the phone doing the voice. The facade is back up, and it's like, we're back in full business, baby, with Gus. It was awesome.
And then we go over to back to Jimmy's apartment, where Kim is finally home. They hug each other. One of the, they get the answer or the question answered that like we were thinking at the beginning of this episode of like, will they ever see each other again after tonight? And they do. They hug, and Mike does the classic thing, and I think this is this kind of goes back to when we were very first introduced to Mike in Breaking Bad, where Jane dies. Or this might not have been the first time we saw.
No, it is.
No, it is. Yeah. Where Jane dies, and he walks Jesse through of like, this is the story. You don't know anything. You woke up and she was already like this. You don't know anything else. All of this stuff. And he does the same exact thing with Kim and Jimmy, which I absolutely adored. A lot of callbacks, a lot of parallels this episode.
I woke up, I found her. That's all I know.
Yeah, I woke up, I found her. That's all I know.
It was so cool.
This one really hit me though. Like, I mean, that one, of course, in Breaking Bad was a big moment. This one, like, the fact that they have to go to court and they have to live their day like nothing happened after this. Then he's just like, you guys are going to be the best actors ever. And just, you don't space off. You don't look into the ceiling. You just do your thing. And I don't know if you guys saw that little like teaser at the ending for the next episode of just like them just trying to like hope that this just goes away one day. And I didn't expect the show to go that way. I didn't expect there to be like this massive moment of them just having to deal with this trauma essentially. And I think that is where the show is going to lead, of like them fully embracing the Saul lifestyle of like, this is the only way to cope with this trauma essentially, because they can't tell anybody.
Yeah. I think that's where the next 4 episodes are going for sure. And I kind of like that. Like the one critique I have of the exceptional, almost perfect show that is Breaking Bad is that the aftermath of Ozymandias is just 2 episodes. And there's a lot of time skip in between Ozymandias and the last episode too. And you don't really get to sit down with like how they're coping with all of the shit that just happened. And I do like, you can, because at the same time I'm like, where the fuck are we going? And then seeing that teaser where it's like, oh, we're actually going to sit with like the aftermath of these 2 characters and how they're going to process with this. And most likely Kim is going to have to walk away from this because she can't just like, forget of like the consequences that their actions brought them. One of my notes here is literally like Mike used, like he even calls it out where he's like, someone's going to find his car in a couple of days. The odometer is going to be perfectly of like how long it takes to drive here to this beach. We're setting it up as like, he like OD'd or like walked into the ocean or whatever. And that was like, you guys were already setting that up, right? And like, Mike used their framed Howard setup to cover up his death. They were literally helping dig his grave this whole season, and they didn't even realize it until this moment. And it's just, again, classic Vince Gilligan and company storytelling there, which is just so perfect. Again, very predictable, but in the way that they tell it is very, very good.
Hey, y'all,
There's
how y'all
a moment.
doing?
Oh, what up, Andy Cortez?
I just wanted to hop in real quick and just add on that, just continue telling the same lie you've been telling was such a gut punch for them. You got to assume that just feels like shit.
Yeah.
And also, I wanted to just double up on what Barrett said, his least favorite part from Breaking Bad. My least favorite part from Breaking Bad was the dubstep scene when he gets Walt
fair.
Jr. a car. That's my least favorite scene. Okay. I love you guys. Sorry I couldn't be here, but
I'm glad
goddamn,
you
what a show.
survived the trip that Greg sent you on to the white brick house with the black door, Andy. I'm glad you survived.
Good lord. Yeah, we got it back. All right. Bye, everybody.
See ya. The last couple of notes here is, they literally fridge Howard. And
I do want to hit on a moment. There's a moment.
Talk about that moment while I get my dog ready to see her dog walker really quick. Sorry.
Yes, that's perfect. I am pro dog. Do anything. There's a moment where Mike is doing his whole thing and he's like, now remember, nothing happened. and say it back to me. And like when Kim says like nothing happened and she's like clearly so broken, Jimmy looks over at her with this like meek, like his face drops and he looks over like kind of nervous at her. And like you see his entire soul leave his body. And I'm like, Bob Odenkirk is so good.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
dude.
Just this little subtle thing. And you're like, that's rough.
You can,
Like,
you can
what is he
pinpoint
thinking?
the moment. You can pinpoint that moment. I think that entire scene just it really broke me because I did not, as I said before, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that level of, hey, we're going to go deep into this trauma of these two people. And I'm scared how Kim is going to take with this, because she didn't experience anything. She didn't experience the desert where multiple people died in front of Jimmy.
No, none of the crazy stuff. The Breaking Bad like hijinks, like none of that stuff.
Yeah. So like I don't see her going to the police. I mean, I think she's too far gone for that. I mean, I know there's been a theory of her committing suicide. I don't know if I see that either. Like, I don't know where this character goes at all, honestly.
No.
No.
But it does a good job of this show in particular, where a lot of like crazy stuff, a lot of grim, a lot of dark, weird stuff happens in Breaking Bad. But with Better Call Saul, the grimness only sets in at very specific points.
Yeah.
And it really settled in here. This was one of those couple of moments in the show where you're like, oh, this is all dark now. This is all brutal. This show is like mean. From that whole thing to then, what's his name, getting fridged. Like, you actually cared. Like seeing him. It's like he looked pathetic and he was just slumped over and then shoving his knees into the fridge. Like you were like, oh, Mamma Mia. Like that's terrible.
And by this time in Breaking Bad, we've seen how many people die, how many people get thrown to acid. So the fact that we're seeing this like fridging and it actually affecting us is really important. But I will want to say really quick that this is the first time I noticed how good their apartment is. It's a beautiful apartment.
It's a great apartment.
It's so gorgeous. And I think
I get so mad.
Fridge, Roger. It's
great. Stainless steel too. Oh my God, you can't say no to that.
So where are we at right now? What have I missed?
Oh, we're the fridging. We were just talking about the fridging. How it just affect us.
And so like my thought process was because it's like, all right, they're gonna take the car there. They're going to hope that the body washes up. It never will. So I'm like, are they putting him in the fridge? Because, like, the fridge is going to float to the bottom of the ocean. But I don't think that's how... I think fridges float. Like what's going on there? And so, like, the thing I least suspected, right, was, like, we cut back to, we're in the last scene, right? And we go to the meth lab. And I immediately put together of like, oh my God, Lalo has been buried underneath this meth lab the entire time. And this is how you do a prequel. Damned to be Nick Scarpino, who thinks that prequels can't be done. When they add new context and more substance to the original, that's how you do a prequel. And just the fact that Lalo, not only him, but Howard Hamlin himself is also buried down under there, where they're kind of like cuddling a little bit in like the way that they're laying down there.
You know what's so crazy with the show is like, I don't know about you guys, but I watch a lot of like stuff. You see dead bodies all the time in television and media. And like there was something about the way, maybe it was just seeing those characters for so long and then to see them totally distilled down to just floppy bodies that looked a little pathetic and sad.
Yeah.
It was a weird feeling. It's been a long time since I've seen a show with dead bodies, and I went, "Wow, ooh.
Yeah, because these are also very alive characters, right? Like Lalo and Hamlin have such iconic personalities.
We're talking about like charisma. Like these were the two most charismatic characters of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. So then seeing them distilled to that and I guess we should talk about Mike and taking those pieces that he needed for the framing of Hamlin's death. But like it's almost he almost does with care. Like he takes these things and it doesn't feel like sometimes we see him do things like that and it's just like, whatever, I'm taking the shit from the body, I'm going to put it over there. But like you feel that moment of like, fuck, like this is not the way that this should have went down. And he takes this personally. And
even says easy with him.
Yeah,
he's like, easy.
And so when he's looking down at there, like I the kind of thing that I took away from it is like, not only is he sees this as last night as his failing of protecting Gus, of, you know, telling Kim that, you know, they were watching out for her and they failed in that aspect. But it brought me back to his, you know, like, obviously Lalo is there, but then I do wonder if he was also thinking about, you know, Howard, who was not involved in this life whatsoever, and like whatever family he's leaving behind. And I wonder if that brought him back to, you know, his son and like his son being killed and like kind of the family that was left behind after his son's death and stuff like that. Which again, very, very good building up of like, you know, you can take even just a look, not even an entire scene, a look in the show a million different ways because of how well they flesh out all of these characters.
Yeah. And in a roundabout way, he causes Hamlin's death just because of his connection to Jimmy, right? Like if him and Jimmy didn't have that connection, then Jimmy wouldn't have went down this path necessarily. So like it's kind of like full circle moment of, hey, I caused this technically.
So while Andy was
they develop him.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say they've developed him enough where like you can at least know what he's thinking, where he still has enough of a conscience where he's like, oh, an innocent man, like this sucks. And you see him looking at the bodies, and it's like you almost think that that's the furthest, like that moment, because they let it linger. Like him thinking about that is probably the absolute furthest he's been from when he was like a Philly beat cop or whatever he was back in the day.
Exactly. So while Andy was out on this mission from Greg, he did send me some more notes that he had. He loves the parallel of Jimmy / Walt laying on his side looking at Howard / Hank's face of, you know, where in Ozymandias, right, where Walt sinks to the ground and he's literally has to face the consequences of his actions in his brother-in-law's death. You know, all roads were going to lead him to this moment of Hank being dead, and that's the same here with Jimmy and Howard, of, you know, where he's trying to get out of the chair and he falls over and he literally has to face the consequences of his actions, not only being a part of this life, this cartel life, but also what he's been doing to Howard. Not only did they set up the kind of perfect story to cover Howard's death this entire season, but also if they had not been messing with Howard, he would not have shown up that night and no one would have died. It would have just been, if that had gone similarly without Howard there, presumably Lalo would have been the only one to have been killed that night. And that is like another moment where it's just like, I'm excited for these next couple episodes to kind of sit with probably Jimmy and Kim going through those same thoughts as well, and how that's going to eat them. And he also says, what now? Didn't expect Lalo to die so soon. All I could think about was Roger reminding us about the pistol that Fring left down there. Yet another moment of the goat Fring being ultra perceptive and realizing something was wrong when Kim talked to him on the phone. I hope Lyle is set up for life. And another note to read, love the typical Gilligan showing what happens at the end of the episode, but damn, it wasn't until the final burial sequence where Mike has them take off the wedding ring and wallet that it hit me really hard that Howard is dead. Really tragic stuff. Andy nailed it there.
Well said.
It again, a lot of parallels, a lot of callbacks, a lot of just, it felt very heavy because we knew that Howard has been dead for like the last month. They remind us at the very beginning of this episode, but again, the entire burial at the end there, that was just like, damn, this man who was not a part of this life whatsoever was the one to fully face the consequences. To wrap up the show this week, before we take a break and come back the week that the show wraps up in August 15th, what are our theories, general thoughts of where we're going for these final 5 episodes? Jake, Roger, I'll start with you.
I was talking to Jake when you were gone that I have no idea where Kim goes from this. I have no idea. I see a part of me, I think she survives. So I don't know if she's a recluse. I don't know if she's just haunted by this memory, and that's the only way Jimmy can move forward is as Saul, and she doesn't have that necessarily. So she just becomes someone that just stays inside and doesn't really do much. I can see that as my only possible future, but I think this ends with Jimmy in jail. The more I think about it, the more I think about how Walt died. I almost said Aaron Paul.
Jesse escapes.
Jesse escapes, and then now Saul goes to prison. That's where my
I like the 3 different endings for these for that trio. Yeah. That's what I've been thinking for the last couple months. So yeah, I'm into that as well. For Kim, I've been thinking about, again, I keep going back to the little black book that Jimmy was able to kind of take from the animal pharmacist man who hooks people up with secret jobs. And that was a fun little moment of like, oh, this is how Saul gets all of his contacts. This is how he gets the card for the vacuum cleaner. But again, knowing these writers, they're not just setting this up to have it be I feel like there's something more to it than just, oh, this is how, he gets all of his hookups in the other show. I feel like we're going to come back to that at some point. And I do think Kim is going to be the first one because obviously the way that Saul introduces the vacuum cleaner in Breaking Bad, it seems like he had done that before. And I do think Kim is going to be the first testing ground for that. And I do like the, again, very Vince Gilligan being inspired by the words of George Lucas. It's all about poetry, right? And so I love the idea of like Kim being, it rhymes, Kim being the first one to like really test out, like in Jimmy's world, the vacuum shop relocation thing, and then him ending up having to do that as well later on in his life, and that's how he leads himself back into prison or whatever. I think it'll be less of an emergency thing. We've really only seen it in an emergency situation. I do think it'll be she can't deal with this life anymore, and she needs to get the fuck out. Like maybe she doesn't even tell Jimmy that's where she goes. Maybe she just like picks up and leaves. But maybe at the same time, she maybe lets something slip, like Jimmy let something slip earlier this season where he accidentally calls Lalo by his true name and not the fake name that he gave to the court and stuff like that. And they're like, who's that? Maybe she slips up in something when, they have to go to the police when they hear about Howard's death, and she, feels cornered, and maybe that's how she gets out. But that's what I'm thinking. Jake, do you have any big theories before, we take a break and come back in a month, in about a month?
It's interesting. It's like the antagonists now are just them. It's them dealing with everything, and like where is an issue going to pop up, because stuff has to still go wrong. I just wonder how much we're going to get. I don't necessarily need it, but I am curious to see how he does go full unleash, like grow his business into this crazy tacky thing, buy a home that's this crazy tacky thing. I don't think it's necessary for the story, but just out of curiosity, I'm curious to see how that ties in. Does he go full insane clown lawyer because she's not in the picture anymore, and he's able to really just go full tacky? I don't know, but I'm just curious to see where it goes, where it seems like the biggest conflict of the show going forward is just them dealing with the fallout of this, and that's going to be fun.
Yeah,
maybe not fun is the right word. Maybe like
it's going to be
hard,
intriguing,
maybe like gut
to
punch.
Watch. Yeah, because I've been convinced this entire last season that like I just don't understand like how he's going to be able to continue on if Kim dies, if Kim's out of the picture. So it's really going to be interesting to see where his headspace is going to be after she goes, whether in whatever way that she does. Let's bring it back to Gene. When are we seeing Gene again? What's going on with Gene, modern day Jimmy? What's he up to? Because my thought now is, with 5 episodes left, I'm convinced the entire last episode is all about Gene.
Yeah, because I was watching before this. They have a video up on the official Breaking Bad YouTube channel of just all the Gene's clips combined. It's only 10 minutes of footage.
Oh, cool.
So
That's
wild. And also go back really quick to your theory about the using the vacuum cleaner business. I did pick up on when he calls for the last time, the guy's almost like, oh, you know what to do, but like more so than the fact that he did it one more time. Like it feels like, oh, you've done this a bunch of times maybe. So I don't know. There's something to that a little bit if you want to rewatch it. But yeah, it's only 10 minutes. So I think we're going to have a full last episode. I mean, they've been teasing it in the actual promo images of like the black and white Gene and everything. So I would like 2 episodes, but I think 1 episode would suffice.
What about you, Jake?
I just like that I am still guessing every single thing, where like a last episode Gene thing could be an answer to Kim. Maybe it could be an answer to just Jimmy overall. Whatever we get out of it, like I'm down. Like I'm really I'm really into it.
The last thing I have here, when I had quick hit questions at the very beginning of the season, the update that I had, I asked, Lalo pretty much has to die, so who kills him? Roger guessed Saul. Andy said Nacho and Lalo kill each other. Jake said Howard, which again, very funny. And I was the one who predicted that Gus himself would do it. And
Wow.
and I love that because not only did I finally get a prediction right for this show, because I feel like I'm always predicting everything and I'm always wrong, but I love when I'm wrong because, you know, the creators are so much smarter than us. But I just loved it for his character because, again, we never see him scared of anybody. And I love that he was the one to do it. And you see him kind of get re-empowered at the end too when he knows that Lalo is on the ground, and he turns back into that Gus that we know and love, and all that stuff. So yeah, I think any last thoughts before we wrap up today, before we take a break and come back in a couple weeks?
Sad this is the end. You know what I mean? Like,
I
this
know.
is
Is it truly the end? Are we gonna get a Lyle show after this? Like,
I think we'll come back to it in the next like 5 years, but I don't know if we're gonna get another 7 years of Breaking Bad storytelling. Maybe.
Here's the deal. Listen, we're gonna get Gus. Not Gus. We're gonna get Mike. We're gonna get him digitally de-aged. He's gonna show up.
Yeah.
He's gonna be a young guy, and we're gonna get Mike Origins.
Mike Origins. Him as a beat cop in, what was it, Philly? That's where he's from?
I think so.
Is he wearing sunglasses? Is that the reason why?
Yeah.
This is my pitch. These are my pitch sunglasses. No,
Oh, okay.
digitally de-age him, deep fake him.
As soon as you put the pitch sunglasses on, I was more convinced of the pitch.
Yeah.
There you go. They work.
That's how it goes.
Ladies, gentlemen, and everybody who joined us for today's screencast talking about Better Call Saul, what are your thoughts on the premiere of the mid-season premiere? Where do you think the show's going for the final 5 episodes? Leave them in the comments below. And hey, if you're listening on podcast services, I want you to go over to youtube.com/kindafunny, click on this episode, because I want you to see the crazy outfit that Roger is wearing. It's absolutely insane. We haven't talked about it at all this episode, but I just really want you to check it out and leave a comment about what Roger is wearing today, just so you can check it out. And hey, if you're on the YouTube, go over to the podcast, subscribe to the Kinda Funny screencast feed, and I want you to listen to the episode on the podcast feed, and then come back to the YouTube and comment what animals you think our voices would most likely fit in an animated cartoon show. Anyways, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in this week to the Kinda Funny screencast. And until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.